So for this DPS section, it was too much information to include on the actual slide, so I needed to do a commentary on it. Now, there's going to be a lot of artifacts, like you're seeing on the screen here, that are what I call a niche situation. It's going to be situational. It's not going to be something you're going to use all the time. So, is it going to be warranting, $300 investment on it? No, most of the times it's not. So, first one, Gem of Horus. There are loadout and rotations with Gem of Horus that will do more damage than like a Trans Strat and Venomous Dispenser. But same thing, it's very situational, and you're going to have it at 200. So are you going to invest $300 just for like the odd time where you use it? Because it's not good on explosive shot. Any kind of range loadout it's not good on, because you're not going to build your 13 hit counter fast enough. It can work on Doomspin frequently, but at the same time, the like Trans Strat and Venomous is more consistent. And then Flurry Shot's a little bit awkward too, because you're breaking your Flurry Shot rotation to keep hitting the Gem of Horus, and then you can't use another ability like Tornado Pull. So it's awkward and clunky. There are situations where it can work, but at the same time, I'm not going to recommend it because it's not worth the investment just for those situations. So same thing with the Dead King Scepter. Dead King Scepter is a good artifact. If you want to swap that in between boss fights, or when you pop your orbital or supplies or pet trinkets to get that cooldown reduction, and then a few taps of the orbital assistance, it can be good. Like it is a good artifact to switch in and out of, but at the same time, that's 4 artifacts you need, and you need Dead King at 200 really to be somewhat effective with the orbital assistance. You don't necessarily have to; it can be 160, but if you want those orbital assistance ticks, you have to have it at 200. But the same thing, another like $250, $300 investment. Just for those times where you switch out. So that's why I can't recommend it for people at level in general, just because of those situations. But it is a great artifact. It's just, if you have a whole bunch of extra money, then sure, get that artifact. Same thing with Lamort. Lamort can be good. There are situations where Lamort's going to be good. It can mess around with kind of rage with E-Chain, with nature, Gorilla being, and Pale of Thorns being AoE. There are situations where it can be better, but those are like few and far between. Or if you're switching power sets, there's going to be powers where it doesn't make sense or it's not viable. I like artifacts that have 100% uptime. Lamort doesn't. I mean, Lamort technically has 100% uptime with its lower finisher reduction cooldown and the extra 10%, but the 10% isn't as noticeable because we already have the finishers buffed. So another 10% of the finishers is not a night and day difference. And Lamort only is going to proc on 35%, and then it's done. And then, there aren't even a lot of boss fights where you're going to have the time to build up stacks, because the boss fights aren't going to last that long. So, once again, another niche situation artifact that I'm not going to tell you to spend $300 on, because once again, it has to be at 200 as well. Philosopher's Stone, same thing with Dead King. If you want to level it because it's got max stats, you're not going to wear it all the time with max stats. You're going to sub it in when you drop a supply drop, and then sub it back out. Are you going to spend $300 for an artifact that you're going to use? The supply drop would be every like 4 minutes. So if you're doing a longer raid, then sure. But I mean, that's it. Source Shard is kind of hit or miss right now. There are some rotations where Source Shard is going to be beneficial for Might and Prec DPS. But at the same time, you're doing fine with the artifacts that are already suggested in this video. The Source Shard might have situations where it can be better, but at the same time, they didn't buff Pet's health. So all these people and all these rotations are on the forums, they're telling you, yeah, Source Shard is good. You're not taking into account that they didn't touch Pets at all. Robot Psychic's still going to die a bunch of times. Fury dies a bunch of times. Like, if you run pet trinkets and on like PCE with Lady Blackhawk, they're dying all the time. So if you have pets dying and continually having to resummon, that's a huge damage loss for Source Shard, because you're not going to always have 3 pets out, because you have to keep resummoning them. So that's what people aren't taking into account when they tell you, yeah, the Source Shard's good, I'm getting good damage with it. That's because they're doing on sparring targets and not actually in content where pets can die. The last one, Tetra, that's more of a personal choice on my behalf. Now, if you want to be a team player, like the way, like, you can't deny, if someone says like, oh, I do more damage with running the Tetra, of course you're going to do more damage running the Tetra, because it's going to be give you an extra, like, 8, 6, 7,000 might, depending on your health and skill points and such. Yes, you're going to be doing more damage in a Tetra rotation, so feel free to run it. Or if you want to be a team player for the group. But at the same time, the way I look at it, your overall damage output is going to be less running the Tetra in a raid because you're buffing all that other DPS. If you're like a Nature Wolf DPS running the Tetra and you're running against like an Earth and a Rage Might DPS, the Earth and Rage Might DPS can use that extra might just as much as you can, or if there's like electric, or if you're an electric DPS and you're running against like Rage and gadgets and stuff, now things are dying faster, so you're not getting your dots full ticking in value because everything's dying quicker because you buffed everyone's might. So yes, it's selfish, but at the same time, controllers can run Tetra. There's no problem. They made that a controller artifact. Batuba was positioning that for controllers to use Cog and Tetra, so they can buff you. You don't have to run it. The other aspect is if you run the Tetra, all the other DPS have 4 artifacts to work with, and you only have 3. So yes, another selfish thing, but at the same time, they have 4, you have 3. Another thing is, well, if you run the Tetra and another DPS in the group runs a Tetra, if you have lower stats, yours is going to get overridden, so it essentially makes it worthless. So are you going to inspect and ask every pug you ever run with, hey, is anyone running the Tetra, or what your stats are? No, that's too much effort. You're not going to do that. If you're running in a league, then sure. But at the same time, if you're running in a league, why isn't the troll running the Tetra? Ask yourself that kind of question. So that's my personal opinions with these 6 artifacts. If you agree with them, disagree with them, that's completely up to you. But I can, in good nature, recommend them in an artifact guide for damage in the situations I presented here. So take care, guys. Thanks for watching.